And then we can do one of these. We can.
There you go.
Well, I'm super excited to be here today with Father Matt Solarz. Did I say it right?
You did.
Okay,
You
great.
did.
Just getting to know some more of our priests of the Diocese of Great Falls-Billings, and super excited to have this conversation with you, to get to know you a little bit better. I think that the unique aspect of your story, I think is really relatable. I know pieces of it. I don't know all of it. Hopefully after today, I'll know more, and people out in the diocese will know more. And not only people, Catholics out in the diocese, but, as a whole, I think that your story is one that is super relevant in the world we're living in right now. And I think it's a beautiful testament to the call that we experience at different points in our lives. And so, just to preface our conversation, you have been a priest in our diocese now for...
It'll be 3 years.
3 years. I was going to say
6 days.
6 days. And you serve on our vocations board.
Yes.
As Director of Second Vocations. Is that
That's
correct? Which is a little bit of a strange term, I think, for a lot of even Catholics. They're like, what does that mean exactly? And so I think that is a great intro to our conversation today, that as Director of Second Vocations, I mean, that means you've had more than one vocation, which most of us don't have that gift. And I truly do see it as a gift. So I guess let's just get started. If you want to just maybe tell us a little bit about where you grew up, who you are, just kind of start us at the beginning.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. And briefly, I mean.
Okay. Well, first of all, I grew up in the Midwest.
Okay.
I grew up in a suburb of Cleveland, Ohio. And I actually grew up, at the time, ELCA Lutheran. So the first 10 years of my life, kindergarten through 8th grade, we're going to a Lutheran elementary school.
Oh, wow.
And of course, I went to a public high school, graduated, wound up with family and a spouse at the time, and numerous different jobs. I was a newspaper reporter for almost a decade. I worked at Ford Motor Company as a machine operator and sort of a liaison, if you will, between the work team and the union, if you will, sort of secretary basically for one of the committees. And then I worked in retail management for a number of years. So I would say this is my fourth and, by the grace of God, final vocation.
Nice.
And ultimate vocation, if you will.
So I think maybe for a lot of people that there was like the scratching of the record. What did he say? Did he say he had a spouse? Did he say he has children? How is that possible? Which I think is a very natural response for most of us, right? We're like, wait a second, a Catholic priest said he had a spouse, had kids. What does that mean?
Well, again, this is a later in life vocation.
Yeah.
So I had no idea when I was younger that I would be called by the Lord to serve the church. In fact, I had no idea I'd be Catholic for many, many years. And in the church, as most people know, you can either receive, of course, the sacrament of marriage or the sacrament of holy orders. And unfortunately, there are times where those relationships have experienced challenges. And there is a process called the annulment process where if a marriage does not continue, that the church comes in and says, okay, was this a sacrament? Was this truly blessed by God? And of course, if they determine it was, holy orders is out of the question for the priesthood. In my case, that was determined that it was not a sacramental marriage. And when the time came, that allowed me to actively pursue my vocation in the church. So
you grew up as a Lutheran. When did you make a profession of faith in the Catholic Church?
Oh, this is the story about doing the right thing for the wrong reasons.
I like it.
So I had a family and I had 2 young children. We lived in a very nice area, but the school system had some challenges. And one of the friends said, "Hey, there's a great Catholic school around the corner." And I said, "Well, great, I can't afford $2,000 a month in tuition for these." "Well, if you join, tuition's only $300 a month." "Well, sign me up. Where do we go and join the church?" And, at the time we had started, it was RCIA at the time. And in doing so, it was amazing just how growing up Lutheran helped me transition. And really, I saw many of the same liturgical traditions when compared to the Novus Ordo, but to really experience Christ in the Eucharist and the real presence of Christ. And some of the differences were when you look at it through Catholic eyes and through proper catechesis, you say, why didn't I see this all along? This was something that it was mind-boggling. It moved the heart, and said, this is good. Yeah. This is good. And I wish I could say I was a daily mass goer from that point on, but that was not the case. And later on in life, it was when I was having some personal challenges and started getting active in church, the Knights of Columbus, serving as an usher at a parish. And it got to the point where I said, the only time I really feel fulfilled is when I'm here at the church. And I remember talking to a dear friend. In fact, it was the priest that vested me at my ordination. And I said, I'd really like to be a deacon. And my mother at the time, who knew me very well, God rest her soul, she said, "Oh, you don't want to be a deacon." She said, "I know you. If you're ordained a deacon, you're going to be mad because you can't say the Mass. And you're going to say, I want to be a priest." He said, "Pray on it." And of course I did. And my spiritual director at the time told me, he said, "I think you're in love with your church. I think you love this beautiful old church." He said, "You need to pray on it some more." He said, "Take a year, go throughout our diocese and experience churches that are not traditionally beautiful. Go to a church that looks like a gymnasium. Go to a church with a Christian rock band, a Catholic church, of course." He said, "And then if you can come back to me and say that you found Christ in the Eucharist at every single one of those parishes, then we'll talk about a vocation." And it was good advice. And, again, during that difficult period of my life is when I said, "Lord, for 42 years, I haven't been able to do this the right way. So what do you want me to do?" And the answer in front of St. Jude one night is, "I want you to serve me." And here I am.
Yeah, here you are. So when you came into the church, did your whole family come into the church with you?
Before I became a seminarian, actually, my mother and father both converted to Catholicism from the Lutheran tradition. In fact, I was my father's confirmation sponsor.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
What a beautiful story of conversion, right?
So, God works in mysterious ways.
Yeah.
I think if somebody would have asked me back when I was 19 or 20, they said, 30 years from now, you're going to be a Roman Catholic priest in Montana, I would have looked at them like they had three heads. Yeah. I would have said, "What are you talking about? That's the most ridiculous thing." But the Lord truly has a plan for each of us. And sometimes that path is more winding and creative than we ever could have dreamed.
Yeah. So I'm curious. You have 2 kids?
I do.
2 children?
I do.
And where do they live?
My daughter is in her early 30s, and she is in Aurora, Colorado, and she's getting ready to finish her doctorate in 8 months. Wow. So I'm, proud moment there. Yeah. And then my son is back in Ohio, and he's currently going to Kent State University, and he's working on technical theater. So, very interesting career paths for both of them.
Yeah. What's your daughter studying?
She's working on her doctorate in nursing administration and education.
Okay.
So, yeah.
That's awesome. So tell me what they thought of you becoming a priest.
That was kind of interesting because when you have, young adult children, they were younger adults at the time. I mean, over 18, of course. But I remember sitting them down and I said, "Guys, I really feel called to this, but obviously I'm your father and I have a responsibility to you." I said, "You need to understand that if I take this road, my first responsibility will be to the people I serve." I said, "I will not be the dad that can just drop everything at 9 o'clock at night and be there at midnight. I said, pray on that. I said, talk to everybody else in the family. If you have a problem with that, if that's going to impact our relationship, think about it. Don't tell me now. Take a week, take a month, and talk to me again. And by the grace of God, they both came back and they said, Dad, if you really think this is what the Lord wants you to do, we're okay with it.
Wow.
And, it was really a blessing because I don't know that I was expecting the answers that I got. I think my son kind of raised an eyebrow at me a little more. He's like, priest, Dad? Really? Mm-hmm. But my daughter seemed to understand. Yeah. So it was a blessing.
And do they still feel that way?
I hope so. I hope so. Every once in a while I'll have that conversation with my oldest, my daughter, and she'll say, no, Dad, I don't want the advice from priest dad. I want the advice from dad. I said, priest dad and dad are the same dad.
Yeah. So I think you know this about me, but I had the blessing of working and administrating Holy Spirit Parish under Father Doug Krings, who was married. His wife passed away. He has 4 children, and I think he's up to 11 or 12 grandchildren now.
Oh, my goodness.
And I always thought it was very interesting to talk to him. He called it his past life, his other life. And one of the things that I realized when I met his children, some of them, for the most part, they're very supportive of his call and vocation to the priesthood. But I think there are natural things that we as children, adult children, want from our parents that I would see probably as a challenge personally, even as a parent, like trying to grapple with and understanding. But one of the things that I always thought was so interesting and to talk to him about was I really felt a deep call that God wouldn't call someone to 2 vocations if it wasn't in the plan for them, right? And so, but I was always very cognizant of giving Father Doug the freedom when he needed to be, or if he needed to be dad. And I would say, in my assessment, he always erred on the side of Father Doug versus Dad Doug Krings. And that was hard for me as a lay woman in a covenantal sacramental marriage myself. Like, I try to imagine what that would be like for my children, right? And it's a sacrifice. And it's really beautiful to hear. And I'm sure it will continue to be a journey for you and your children. But what a beautiful witness to the church and to the people around you, the people you serve, to see that kind of affirmation from your own children, right? Do you find in your ministry as a priest leaning into ever, your first vocation or all of those? I mean, it sounds like you had quite a varied professional background, which is pretty. I did not know that about you, so that's pretty cool. But I wonder, can you talk to us about, as a priest, obviously the job is different than being a reporter.
Yes.
It's different than being a parent. But I would bet there's some similarities in some of those.
There are some.
Yeah. So talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, it certainly gives me a lot more to draw from for homilies, right?
Yeah.
A lot more experiences that I can draw from.
Probably a little bit more relatable.
But no, it's a career. I mean, again, even a career, right? It's something that if you go on vacation, you can set it aside, right? You say, I don't want to. Really, being a priest to me is like being called to be the shepherd of a family, right? And even when you step away, I don't think I've had a single time to step away where someone hasn't reached out with a need or a thought. And I think with a job, it's real easy to take the phone and say, I'm off today. Whereas when you're a priest, there's always that urge to say, how can I be the face of Christ to that person? Is what this person needs imminent? right? And I think there's, obviously a higher likelihood that we're going to drop everything to take care of what we need to, because that's what we're called to do. We're called to be present for people as their priest and their pastor. I think in a secular career, it's a whole lot easier to separate, right? Work from, and not necessarily all. I mean, there are some career paths where both become very, very intertwined, right? But if you're working on a line at Ford Motor Company, 3 o'clock comes, that whistle goes off, you put your tool down right where it is, you go home, you say, I'm not thinking about this until 7 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And it's very much the opposite, right? I find myself at home in the evening after I get my evening prayer done. I'll sit there and say, was I as Christ-like as I could have been to everybody I encountered today? And thankfully, many times I can say yes, but I'm human, and there are times where I can say, no, Father, you could have done this better. And I have to sort of reassess. So it's really about, I think, integration, right? Because it's not just a giving of your time and talent, it's a giving of yourself and your spirituality. So I think they're a little more interwoven, if that makes sense.
It does. I mean, it's just fascinating. So I've had 2 conversations in the last 48 hours with 2 totally different people. One of them was a conversation with our CFO upstairs, actually, and I was just saying, I would just like someday to be able to go to Mass and to just sit at Mass and not know what's going on behind the scenes and just be able to be totally focused. Because I have, in my life, since I was 18 years old, I have worked in church ministry.
Sure.
So there is no disconnect for me. And I think that has been a real challenge for me personally. But the way you describe it, right? I look at that and I go, oh, that's beautiful. Again, I'm using that word a lot today, but I also, I've never felt like I've had a job where I could just turn it off at 3 o'clock and go home. So I think you bringing that experience that you had gives you the opportunity to really be very relatable to just the average Jill or Joe, right? That a lot of people, I think sacramentally, right, we miss the boat a lot of times, even in our vocations to our marriages, where we forget that that's a covenantal relationship, right? And what you're describing is this experience of vocation as a way of life, right? Which is what a vocation is. And so really relatable in the fact that you're just you're human, right?
Of course.
Perfectly imperfect. And I just find that very refreshing.
Thank you.
And I think that the church, Big C church, universal church, has a real opportunity with our second vocations priests. And I see it as just an amazing opportunity that is before us. And I know that that's not the feeling of all Catholics.
Right.
It's not the feeling of all, whether they're ordained or lay. And I guess, have you come into any challenges with Catholics, like questioning, where's your heart, man?
Yeah, it's it's a tightrope. It's one of those things where I tell people when they ask, I say, you were married, you have 2 children, and I even had one person, I mean, not where I currently am, but another parish, they said, well, how can you be a priest? And it opened up dialogue about our sacraments and what a sacramental marriage is, what an annulment is, just how serious that sacrament is. And I find that everything becomes a talking point, provided people are asking out of a genuine sense of inquiry and not a sense of gotcha, right? Because we always have that.
Right.
And I remember when I first was discerning, I was with a group called the Glen Mary Home Missioners in Southern Ohio. That's where I began my journey. And the head of formation at the time was at St. Meinrad, and I was doing an interview there. And he said, the last interview question was the big gotcha. He said, So tell me, he said, what are you going to do when somebody in a parish someday walks up to you and says, you had kids, you made mistakes, you're annulled, you made mistakes in the workplace, and then you turn yourself. What makes you feel like you're worthy of being a priest?
Mm.
And I thought about it, I said, who is?
Mm.
Who is worthy to consecrate the Holy Eucharist on the altar? There's none of us.
Mm.
Yet we're called. That old saying, God doesn't call the qualified, he qualifies the called.
Mm.
And there's not a time that I've experienced since my ordination during the consecration of the Blessed Sacrament where I don't have to pause because I can feel the tears starting to well up. And it's, Lord, I can't believe you chose me.
Mm.
And it is a blessing that I don't deserve in a million years, but I try every day to do my best to live up to God's call. And sometimes, in some cases, let the mistakes I've made be an example to others about, I'm telling you from experience, this is why the church teaches what it does and why we do what we do. So, yeah, that's a very good question.
Yeah.
Thank you for asking
Yeah,
that.
absolutely. Well, and I think sometimes we put, I don't know, we put a blockade between our pastors, our shepherds, and ourselves, right? Like,
Sure.
and oftentimes, sometimes what that blockade does is we tend to look with eyes of judgment and not clarity on our ordained men and religious women, right? That we have these expectations. And I think what you're saying, what I hear you saying, kind of when always remember when Pope Francis came out, and he was being interviewed, I think by the AP. They said, "Who are you?"
Mm-hmm.
And his answer was, "I am a sinner."
That's right.
Right?
That's right.
And it's this acknowledgement that, yeah, we're striving for perfection, right?
Mm-hmm.
But there's no resurrection without crucifixion. There's a journey, and
Mm-hmm.
always be open to the experience. And I just think that I've had a lot of people in my life say, "Don't you think men should be able to be married and be priests? And don't you think that women should be able to be priests?" And I'm like, whoa, hold on. I can only speak for myself,
Right.
right? I can only speak for myself. And this idea that this whole idea that you as ordained men take on of persona Christi. And I think too at the consecration that what an incredible responsibility and gift that must be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes I'm jealous, but not envious
Mm-hmm.
of what priests are able to turn themselves over to, right? And yeah, it's just very beautiful to hear you
Thank you.
share that, and genuinely
Yeah.
so. And I think, again, as I look, I've served a lot of pastors. I've
Mm-hmm.
served a lot of bishops in
Mm-hmm.
my 52 years. And I'm always enlightened and refreshed by the individual stories of call, right? Um, when I was 17, I sat down with a mentor of mine who is a Cincinnati Dominican, and I told her that I wanted to be a nun. I was like, "I want to be a sister. I want to be like you." And she was radical. Sister Alice Ann Byrne. She's amazing. If anyone out there knows her. Um, and she's still alive, but she was this radical Cincinnati Dominican nun. And I remember sitting across from her as a 17-year-old and saying, I want to be a nun. And she was just like, "Nope."
Mm-hmm.
And just with great resolve, she said, "No, God has a different plan for you. You're going to figure it out." Stop running from something. Make sure you're running to something.
Sure.
And I look back now, and I have a husband, my husband Daniel, and I have my 2 beautiful children. And I serve God and have served God in many capacities. But my first vocation, right? Kind of what you said to your kids. My first vocation is as wife and mother.
That's right.
And every pastor I've worked for, every bishop I have worked in some capacity, I've made it very clear. Please understand, my first vocation is to my husband and to my children. Which, it's interesting as you described those conversations with your children, because essentially the leap of faith you had to take and that they had to take was for you to be able to say to your children, who God gave to you as gift and miraculous gift, right? And that experience of being probably husband and father brought you to where you are today. And to ask for their affirmation in that, and then to receive that from them. But you said to them, it's Father, I'm taking on this role. I'm taking on this vocation. I am answering the call with an exuberant yes, but I'm not discrediting the call to be your dad.
Oh, absolutely. And that's,
right.
That's something I had made clear, at no point did I say, well, hey, I have to walk away. I mean, that would be morally reprehensible. It was a,
understandable sometimes though, as a parent, I'll tell you, sometimes I'm like,
but again, it's the, this is not a 9 to 5.
Right.
This is me accepting 380 other families as my spiritual children, or however many families I'm serving. And I mean, there are times when it's difficult. I mean, there are times when you want to pick up and say, I'll be right there. And I agree with you when you say and in fact, it's one of the things I have with my staff. I'm blessed with some phenomenal staff down in Lewistown. And, there are times where I try to make it clear, and if you ever talk to them, you can double check me on this, is family is always first.
Yeah.
I know my staff, they do their job beautifully. They make my mission and ministry possible. But I also understand, hey, you didn't make a vow to the Catholic Church or to the bishop. You made your promise to your spouse, to your children. And it's absolutely right. I mean, vocation, whether it's marriage or priesthood, is an absolute. And it is not up for debate. If you do it the way God called you to do it. So.
Do you find, have you, along your journey, have you had times where you've had to have a little bit of a wrestling match with God in the call?
Oh, I think every clergy person, we're obviously blessed abundantly. And there are days when I know I'm not remotely deserving of the blessings I've received from God. But there are times when we carry a cross. I mean, a heavy one. The holidays are especially hard. It's very difficult, especially having had a family. You have Christmas Eve, and as a priest, you want to make sure Christmas Eve is a beautiful evening mass for your families. You're concerned about the liturgy, that the kids feel welcome, that you've told the story of the Nativity appropriately and meaningfully. And then you're looking out, you see families together and everyone else. And then when Mass is over at 10 o'clock, you turn the lights off to the church and you go home to an empty rectory. And then you spend some time with the Lord. So there are crosses. I mean, because I sometimes I envy the younger men who went straight from like a high school seminary to a college seminary, because in their own way, they've been formed differently, right? Their experience is one of their home family than their church family. But having had that experience that so many people have as, a spouse, as a father, you notice the difference. And again, it's not to say that what I do now, I couldn't dream of doing anything else.
No.
But there are times when it weighs heavy. And that's when you go back, spend some time with the Lord, and say, Lord, get me through this next 5 minutes of carrying this cross. And I know that you have even more blessings for me as you've continued to show me. So, yeah, there are times when it's difficult.
Yeah. I think that's, wow. I mean, I think it's good for people to hear that. Because I just think sometimes we forget, right? We forget even a priest who doesn't have the experiences and have had a vocation in one way and now has this new, this opportunity to serve God in a totally different way, but totally covenantal, sacramental way that you do as a priest, right? That I think we get really critical of our priests oftentimes, and we expect superhuman piety, and we forget that. And sometimes I think, not sometimes, a lot of times, we just don't give the grace to our priests, the grace of understanding and mercy and patience that, and we forget. We think, oh, well, Father Matt's fine. I mean, his homily tonight was, it was, but, and here we are, and we don't think about Father Matt going home, turning off the lights to the church, and going home. And I think in a very real way for you, what you just shared was, it's not that life that you had before is just gone. There are remnants, right?
Yes.
And longings, right? I'm sure. I'm sure.
Yeah, and again, please don't think for a moment. If I could go back, my experiences, good and bad, have shaped the priest that I am today. And if I could give anyone a word of advice, it would be, your priest is there as a servant of God. They're there with a mission to share with you word and sacrament and to help you to become closer to Christ. Don't put your clergy on a pedestal. We're not perfect. We strive to be that face of Christ every day, but ultimately we have our faults, our failings, which we also are consistently bringing to God, to ask for strength, to ask to be better, to be more effective, to be, at the end of the day, when I do my Ignatian examen, where I ask myself, did I do everything I could have done today? It's an ongoing thing. It's like, well, I said I was going to do this last week and I didn't. Now I need to go back, right? So somebody once told me, and I'm sure someone famous said this, a famous saint, but they said, the only difference between a saint and a sinner, right, is a saint is a sinner that never quit trying. And I think, if people can understand their clergy are human, but we've also made a promise, not just to our bishop, but to God, to strive every day to try to be that superhuman that Christ wants us to be. So does that?
Yeah, it's great. Okay. It's great. So tell me about Lewistown.
Oh my goodness.
I feel like we've been really heavy here. I'm like, tell me about Lewistown. Tell me what you love. Tell me what you love about Lewistown.
Cafe 406. They have the best burger in town.
Okay.
It's a beautiful community.
Yeah.
Very, very vibrant parish. We have a number of families that I don't think every parish has wonderful families, but we have a few families that are just so dedicated to that church. I said, when I wish I had their energy just to see the things that they're constantly doing for St. Leo's. It's a beautiful community. It's a lovely church. As you know, we just finished with a capital campaign to get a number of things done. And we're blessed to see a lot of those coming to fruition, with the support of the bishop and with our parishioners. So it's been a very, very interesting experience, a very different experience from my time in eastern Montana and on the High Line. But it's helped me grow. Different set of challenges, different set of blessings, just like every parish.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, and there's deep roots in Lewistown, right?
Yes.
Deep Catholic roots in Lewistown. And it is a beautiful community, both geographically and just in the people. I haven't spent a lot of time in Lewistown, recently, but when I first came to the diocese 29 years ago, we would have a lot of our diocesan youth ministry meetings in Lewistown because it's
Centrally
actually, it's
located.
more central. Yeah, exactly. But I was always taken by the fact that, I grew up in Missoula in the
Okay.
valley,
Mhm.
and I feel like Lewistown is a little bit like a little Missoula valley. Like you have the mountains right there, and
Okay.
the outdoors are close.
Mhm.
Yeah, it's a beautiful community, and
Mhm.
both in people and in what's there. So what's on your? I mean, I know you just finished. Well, did you finish the second phase of your capital campaign or just the first?
Just the first.
Okay,
Just the first.
successful, highly
Yeah,
successful.
almost double what we had asked for.
Yeah,
We were
yeah,
very blessed.
yeah. Which I always say, if you feed them, they will come. And so I think that's a great indicator of kind of not maybe a resurgence of just some energy for the faith in Lewistown. I know the church in Lewistown has experienced waxing and waning,
Yes.
right? And so I see that as a trend up, and I think that's attributed to leadership and your leadership and spiritual leadership, and that's I hear really good things.
Well, thank you.
And yeah, so you're almost 3 years into you're
Yep.
starting.
I'll be starting my third year in Lewistown July 1st.
Good, good. And what are some of the challenges that you have faced?
Oh my goodness. In Lewistown or my ministry in general? I mean that.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Um, wow. I always try to stay positive and focus on blessings and
Yeah.
not challenges. So to be asked about challenges, you have to give me a second on that one.
It's totally fine.
I think the biggest challenge in any priestly ministry is recognizing that in many ways, our church is as divided as our society right now, right? It's as polarized in many ways. And I think when you come into a church, whether it's as an associate or a pastor, I said every individual, church is deeply personal to every person that goes to church. And everyone comes to church with different expectations, right? They want to receive the sacrament, of course, but I like this kind of music. I like this kind of liturgy. I like this kind of homily. I like this kind of decoration in the church. And I think the biggest challenge is to be able to look at your community and say, okay, it's almost like you're on a seesaw where you're saying, okay, really spiritually, I think the community needs more of this is what I'm experiencing. But if I do too much of this, it's going to start to go. And you have to find a way. It's kind of like teaching K through 12 all at once, where you have to look and say, how can I represent what the church is supposed to represent to all of these people who are at different places and with different expectations? And I think, there's a fear of failure, right? Because ministry is so important to us and it's such a part of who we are, where it's like, okay, do they want this? And sometimes it's, what do they want? Other times it's, what do they need, right? And, that becomes, of course, a source for friction. Sometimes that's any parish you're in, if you take this vase here and put it here, there's going to be one family that says, why did Father move the vase? And again, it's because church is so deeply personal, and rightfully so, right? Generations are baptized, married there, grandparents, great-grandparents came through the church. So I think just as a pastor, just trying to meet the needs of so many different people with different expectations and ensure that no matter what I'm doing my best to be that face of Christ to them in the way that they're able to receive it.
So I like your use of the seesaw, the teeter-totter, right? I've always thought about ministry as a balance, like the old-fashioned, like true balance. I think that's what it's called. Is it called a balance? Like that lady, yeah. Okay.
Lady Justice, the
yes.
scales.
Yeah, the scales. Okay, scales. That's good. But I always see Jesus, right, as the pinnacle in the middle, right? And when I always describe ministry as I'm in the ministry of both and rather than either or.
Yes, absolutely.
Right?
Yep.
And I would say that I agree with you 100% that the church right now is,
Mm-hmm.
there's this tension, right,
Mm-hmm.
of this.
Mm-hmm.
And people often ask me, get me into political conversations. And I'll always say, well, I just reside somewhere in the middle with Jesus. And they look at me and they're like, that's not really an answer. And I'm like, yeah, but there is this fine line of leaning too far on the teeter-totter this way.
Mm-hmm.
And I think sometimes what's happened in our culture right now, and even in our church, is somebody's taken a leap of faith and jumping and landing on one side of the teeter-totter and sending everyone on the other side into the air instead of let's figure this out. Because I think that's what Jesus calls us to, right? He doesn't call us to polarity.
That's right.
He calls us to unity. And it's really hard in ministry, even in lay ministry, right? To hold that tension, to hold that balance. And every day, right, the people we serve, including ourselves, are literally trying to navigate that tension.
Yes.
And I think sometimes in my experience, people in the church, it comes out sideways because they know deep down that the church, that God is merciful and forgiving, and they're going to get grace from Father Matt. They're going to get grace from him, even if they say, I don't like where you put that vase. They know instinctively, I believe, and you give that off. Just you give off an energy of interesting. I get from you accountability, but I get this sense of understanding, of truly hearing. And I don't even know you that well, but I feel like how lucky are the people in Lewistown to have that kind of shepherd in their midst. And I hope that they see that and that they can come to you and say, Father Matt, that vase is in the wrong place. And it seems so minute, like that example. I'm sure there's people out there going, really? Do people really care about where a vase is? Yes.
They do.
Yes, as a matter of fact, they do. And they'll even talk to you about how the toilet paper roll in the public restroom of our churches should be going under instead of over.
Oh, yes.
Which is an argument we have in our marriages all the time, right? But I think that it's interesting because in the church, where that vase is, that their grandmother donated.
That's right.
Like, why would you put that out at the parish rummage sale when that was my grandmother donated that to be in front of the Blessed Mother every May 1st? You know, people have that. And I hear you saying that there's this honoring of that and yet bringing fresh eyes and fresh insight and welcoming the 15-year-old that walks in and says, I'd like this vase to go at the feet of the Blessed Mother, right? So yeah, challenges are different than, like you said, I like to look at the positive. I actually think challenges are very positive because we grow, right?
That's true.
We grow, and how we respond also encourages growth within the people that we're ministering to. So that's super great. Yeah.
Thank you.
Did you want to move to Great Falls? No, just kidding. Just kidding. We got great priests in Great Falls. Just kidding. No, Lewistown's not that far.
No, I'm only an hour and 40 minutes away.
I know, which is so nice. And I was so appreciative when I reached out to you and said, could you come and sit down and visit? Because I know how busy you are, right? I know how busy you are, and I also probably can't imagine how busy you are. But that taking
not
the
as
time,
busy as some, Aubrey, I'll tell you.
Yeah.
I'm blessed. I mean, I cannot, and I know I've said this already in our conversation, but I know there are so many priests that are answering their own phones. and they're, handling their own bookkeeping and everything else. I have, a staff. I've got one full-timer and I have a part-time office manager.
Yeah.
And literally, I mean, I can hand them things and I don't have to worry about it. And there are times where they will take things without even mentioning it to me and saying, oh, by the way, Father, we've got this. And I would say 80% of what I do is made possible by not just my staff, but by the volunteers at St. Leo's. So it truly is a vibrant parish, not just in its staff, but in the people. So it's easy to be a priest there because the people are so engaged.
That's great. That's great to hear. Are you a good delegator?
My leadership style has always been as a facilitator, right? I'm not a micromanager. I'm not somebody who will come in and hand you a job description that's got 20 different points on it. I will find people that I can work with where I communicate effectively, where I can say, this is what I'm looking for. This is what I need. This is what the job site or the parish needs. And then I have effective communication with them so that they can carry things out. So I tell people, I said, my management style is to find people who are better than I am, that I can communicate with to get the jobs done.
Nice.
And they do a beautiful job. I'm very blessed.
So you are a delegator.
There you go.
Yeah.
Short answer, right?
Yeah. You are a delegator. Yeah, I'm not great at that. I'm learning. It's only taken me 30 some years in ministry to figure out. Yeah. I think sometimes when I look across the diocese and I look at some of our very rural parishes where it is Father who is chief bottle washer, doing everything from mowing the lawn to, all the things that we were talking about, I think, before we started recording, that, you were talking about the principal up in Miles City, it's like he's the landscaper, he's the mechanic, he's the principal, he's the nurse, you know what I mean? I think that oftentimes we forget in our smaller communities, that sometimes these priests that are assigned to those very rural locations, they are doing it all through the support of mostly volunteers, if that, and they're required to handle a lot of the day-to-day administration of a parish, right? And so I'm glad to hear that you have support, because I always saw my role as an administrator in a parish to do the things that I could do, although Father Doug was quite capable of doing, right? There are things that you as a priest can do that I can't do.
Sure.
And so to allow you some of that space, to be able to carry out your priestly vocation effectively and to truly shepherd, I think it's great to hear that you have that support. So
I think about the role of what a shepherd does, right? And, because I've had fantastic people come and say, no, Father, we know, what do you want us to do? Tell us how you want it done. And my response is, if you were asking me about the sacraments, if you were asking me about theology, if you were asking me about what the church teaches, no problem. I will tell you. Yeah. But this is your community. This is your church. I said, long after Father Matt is gone, whether it's 6 years or longer or less, they're going to be there. I said, the shepherd opens the door to the fold and says, this is where it's safe to graze. The shepherd doesn't walk in, line them all up, and walk them around and say, you eat here, you eat here, you eat here, you eat here, right? So to me,
maybe you should. Some of us need that.
So it's okay. This is your community. Yeah. How do you want to build it? Okay, I see you're building it that way. The church says to do this. So I see myself more as a spiritual guide and an administrative lead, right? To say, how can I build this community so that it's going to continue to grow long after I'm gone, right? And that the people know this is their community under, of course, the auspices of our bishop.
Sure.
So I like that organic sort of growth, of course, within the limitations of Orthodoxy. Yeah. So that's sort of my philosophy in a nutshell.
Yeah, I like it. Wonderful. Wonderful. Let's see. I don't know.
That was a conversation
Yeah.
stopper, wasn't it?
Yeah. No, it wasn't. That word orthodoxy gets me oftentimes.
How so?
But it's the same way that I think the word obedience
Mm-hmm.
gets people. It
Mm-hmm.
doesn't, that word does not get me. But like orthodoxy, I tend to lean a little on the more contemporary. I grew up more
Mm-hmm.
contemporary Catholic. I see great beauty in the traditions of the church.
Mm-hmm.
But so when I hear that word orthodoxy, I'm like,
Can
slows
I
me.
clarify?
Yeah, please do.
So we so often we get, when we say orthodoxy, you think, ooh, old school Latin Mass. This is 500 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
Orthodoxy. We're going.
Mm-hmm.
When I use the word orthodoxy, I'm referring to the teachings of the church,
Yep.
what we proclaim to be true, what we proclaim to be, the infallible teaching of what Christ has handed to us, right? So approach and the way we choose to minister is an entirely different topic, right? How we wield orthodoxy is
Yes.
really what's important, right? It's are we going to wield the teachings of the church with, a hammer,
Mm-hmm.
or are we going to wield it with a hug and handshake and a welcome, understanding that, as a priest, I know what the church says is true
Mm-hmm.
and what we cannot deviate from. And I've made a vow to protect that and remain within that. That's not to say that I can't reach outside of that and say, hey, this is what we teach. Come along and see. Come along and grow, right? So when I use the word orthodoxy, it's simply saying, this is what have made a promise to not deviate from.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean that I can't have a kinder or a gentler approach.
It's all in the delivery.
Right, exactly, exactly. Right. We go back to the old, the pendulum, right?
Yes.
It's like, okay, here's the truth. We don't want to be over here. We don't want to be over here. We want to stick to what
I love it.
the truth of the church is.
I love it. That's how I describe obedience. Like when I use the word obedience, especially for my own children, I get this weird reaction, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that a lot of times people carry with them other
Mm-hmm.
experiences or definitions of words that are actually contextually completely off. So
Mm-hmm.
I really appreciate you clarifying and appreciate. I think that the church right now in the world, right,
Mm-hmm.
has got to throw open its doors to the conversation
Mm-hmm.
with speaking the truth in love, right?
Absolutely.
And that's, I
agree
think,
with
sometimes the piece that's missing when we start to look at evangelization, right?
that. Mm-hmm.
How do you evangelize a culture that is so counter
Mm-hmm.
to the truth that you and I live,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And yet do it in a way that is welcoming. And I always use the image when I'm talking to people about evangelization of Jesus's arms on the cross. Like
Sure.
they weren't like this,
That's right.
right? They were like this.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just standing there waiting
Mm-hmm.
for us to approach.
That's right.
And he will pursue us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And I think of evangelization in that way, and that's what I hear you describing. There's no denying this.
That's right.
There's no denying, the surrender of Jesus on the cross and the fact that I was purchased. I've already been purchased,
Mm-hmm.
right? And it was through the blood
Mm-hmm.
of God's Son, right? And I don't have to sell myself any other way. I mean, I'm claimed. But also that is truth,
Mm-hmm.
right? And what you described earlier in our conversation about, I really loved the priest that vested you, that said,
Father Tom.
go to every church in the area, go to the Catholic churches that are like on one end of the spectrum and and if you still experience,
Christ in the
right? If you
Eucharist.
find Christ in the Eucharist, yep, this is the way, right? And
Mm-hmm.
I think that was speaking truth in love. Like,
Mhm.
I always tell people when they're like, why are you Catholic? And I'm like, well, why? Because I need Jesus.
Mhm.
I need Jesus. And I believe that in the Catholic Church, it is the truest embodiment of what that meant,
Absolutely.
right?
Mhm.
I can't find it anywhere else. And when I don't have it, when I don't have Jesus' true presence in the Eucharist, something is missing from my life.
Mhm.
There's a piece separate from
Oh yeah.
who and what I am.
Mhm.
Um, and yeah, so
I,
that's great. Orthodoxy. I'm going to start using that word.
well, it's so true in so many facets of our life. I remember going to seminary, and even though I was, attending daily mass numerous times during the week, and of course every weekend, and serving and helping out, I had never experienced liturgy of the hours, morning prayer. So, I got to seminary and I said, "Here's your breviary." I was like, "Well, wait a minute. What's breviary? I've never, you know." So suddenly we're praying morning prayer, evening prayer, midday prayer, night prayer, rosary at 8 o'clock. And, after 7 years of doing that, I'm at the point in my life where, I can't go to bed until I've done night prayer. I mean, it's almost like, take your medicine. If you don't take your medicine, you feel like something is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same way. I mean, there have been mornings where I haven't had time because I've been in a hurry and I've had to get to a meeting or get to something. It's like I didn't do morning prayer, and next thing you know, I'm doing morning prayer as I'm getting dressed, listening to it on the phone because I just can't start the day without the prayer. And that's how the Christian life works, right? That's how our Catholic life works. The more you embrace the Lord, the more you seek the Lord, the more it becomes part of what you do. It's good habits ingrain themselves as badly as bad habits do,
Mm-hmm.
right? And hopefully, by the grace of our good Lord, we replace the bad habits with good and healthy ones.
I was always very like growing up I never had an experience of daily mass.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't know why. I grew up in, well, Father Doug likes to call it the dark side. I
Oh,
grew up in Missoula, right on the other side of the mountains in the other diocese. But I
okay.
didn't experience daily mass. I know it was available. I know that was a thing. But
Mm-hmm.
even when I moved to Great Falls, so I've been here 29 years, it took COVID
Mm-hmm.
and me working for the church and a priest, Father Doug, saying, we're going to have mass every day. And I can't do it myself. Like, I need help. And I got into the habit during that 2020 and 2021 of I was there to push play on my iPhone
Mm-hmm.
so that our community could experience daily mass. And it became such a habit
Mm-hmm.
that once COVID was over and the church was open back up, daily mass was just part of my daily routine.
Sure.
And when I left parish ministry and came to the diocese, the diocesan offices, so refreshed when Bishop Jeff said, we need a chapel. We need a chapel in our pastoral center. And I was like, amen. And they did morning prayer as a pastoral center team
Mm-hmm.
previously with our previous, but now we have daily mass, and
That's great.
it's just a beautiful way. I missed daily mass today because I needed to take a little shop therapy at Target, but that's beside the point. But I will tell you that what you find, right, when you make those things habit, whether it be morning prayer or the liturgy of the hours,
Mm-hmm.
daily mass, once you experience that, there is always something missing,
Yes.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That you what you find it like your day, it's not that it goes terrible. It's just
Mm-hmm.
different,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just a grounding, it's a centering, it's an opportunity to redirect the focus from myself
Mm-hmm.
to Jesus. And that's a great way to start the day,
Are
right?
you a coffee drinker, Aubrey?
I am.
So, I can liken not, having time for morning prayer to running out of the house before you have your cup of coffee.
It's not good.
Something just
It's not
feels
good.
off and it sets the tone for the rest of the day. Um, so yeah,
Yeah.
you're absolutely right.
Right? I mean, that's a thing. It's a real thing.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I tell people I drink coffee all day. So I guess I need Jesus all day.
Oh,
So it's
very good.
beautiful because I work in the church, so I get to experience, and Jesus is present here in the pastoral center, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We have the true presence here, not only in the tabernacle but in each of us, right? And it's pretty amazing to surround yourself with Jesus and immerse yourself in that. And it's a blessing. It's a blessing to be in ministry alongside pastors, shepherds like yourself. So thank you for your gift of ministry to the church. Thank you for the yes, for your yes. Thank you to your family, to your children for sharing you with the church. That, and I don't know if they'll watch this, but thank you for sharing your dad with us. And that's what I always told Father Doug's children. Whenever I had the opportunity, I just really thank them for the gift, because it's a surrender for them, to share you with us. So thank you for ministry.
Taking the time to talk with me this afternoon.
Anytime.
It's been a blessing.
Come by in the black box in the people have no idea what resides out there. And now Father Matt knows the secret behind
as long as I can hide behind the bushes.
I know. Next time next time it's Catholic actually from behind the reeds. So, thank you again. And would you give us a blessing to go out?
Absolutely.
Okay, that'd be great.
Absolutely. May the Lord bless you and keep you. May the Lord make his face shine down upon you and be gracious to you. May our Lord look upon you with favor and give you peace. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.